Kira Vance was 12 years old when she first killed someone. It was not murder. It was survival. The Varkoth invasion had reached the outer colonies of human space, and her home world of Meridian 7 became a battlefield overnight. She remembered the purple sky turning black with enemy dropships. She remembered her mother pushing her into the underground bunker while plasma fire screamed overhead. She remembered the alien soldier that found their hiding spot 3 days later. And she remembered the sharp piece of broken metal she drove through its throat when it grabbed her little brother. That was 7 years ago. 7 years of running, 7 years of fighting, 7 years of watching friends and family die in ways that still haunted her dreams. The war had ended 2 years ago when humanity finally pushed back the Varkoth to their home system. The peace treaty was signed. The celebrations happened. But for people like Kira, the war never really stopped playing inside their heads. Now she stood outside the gates of the Stellar Academy on Earth, a military and civilian hybrid school that trained the next generation of human leaders. Her transfer papers felt heavy in her hand. The rehabilitation counselors had recommended this. A return to normal life, they said. A chance to be a regular teenager, they said. Learn to exist in peacetime, they said. Kira had laughed at that. There was nothing normal about her anymore, and she knew it. The academy was beautiful in a way that felt almost offensive to her. Clean white buildings rose against a blue sky. Green grass covered the grounds. Students walked in groups, laughing and talking about things that seemed impossibly small. Exams, parties, relationships, sports competitions. These were the concerns of people who had never watched their world burn. Kira walked through the gates with her single bag slung over her shoulder. Everything she owned fit in that bag. She had learned long ago that attachment to things was weakness. Things could be lost, things could be destroyed, things could slow you down when you needed to run. She kept only what she needed. Clothes. A small knife hidden in her boot, a photograph of her family from before the invasion, worn at the edges from years of careful handling. The administration building was easy to find. A tired-looking woman processed her paperwork without looking up. Room assignment. Class schedule. Student ID. Everything so organized and peaceful that it made Kira's skin itch. She kept waiting for an alarm. For an explosion. For the moment when everything would fall apart, because everything always fell apart eventually. Her dormitory room was small but private. A single bed. A desk. A window overlooking the training grounds below. She unpacked in 3 minutes, because there was nothing to unpack. Then she sat on the bed and stared at the wall and wondered what she was supposed to do now. In the war, there was always a mission. Always a goal. Always something to fight or run from or protect. Here, there was just silence, and the distant sound of students being happy. The first day of classes came too quickly. Kira had not slept. Sleep brought dreams, and dreams brought memories, and memories brought pain. She had learned to function on small amounts of rest. The human body could survive on far less than people thought. She had proven that many times during the war. Her first class was History of Human Expansion. The classroom was filled with students her age, all of them looking soft and untested in ways they probably did not realize. They wore clean uniforms, and had styled hair, and smelled like soap and comfort. Kira had showered but still felt the dirt of a dozen battlefields clinging to her soul. She took a seat in the back corner, positioning herself so she could see all exits and have her back against the wall. Old habits. The kind that kept you alive when everything else failed. The teacher was a young man who seemed excited about his subject. He talked about the early colony ships and the discovery of faster-than-light travel and the first contact with alien species. He talked about these things like they were historical facts, and not the beginning of everything that had destroyed Kira's childhood. The other students took notes and asked questions. Kira watched them and felt like a ghost haunting a world she no longer belonged to. There was a girl with blonde hair who laughed at something, her friend whispered. There was a boy with expensive shoes, who leaned back in his chair like he had never known fear. There was a group in the front row who competed to answer questions, eager to prove their intelligence, in a place where intelligence had never been tested by fire. The class ended. Another began. Then another. Kira moved through the day like a machine, observing and cataloging and staying invisible. She had learned that skill during the war, how to move without being noticed. How to blend into shadows and silence. How to become nothing, so that enemies would look right past you. Lunch came, and with it, the first real test. The cafeteria was loud and crowded. Too many people, too much noise, too many potential threats in every direction. Kira grabbed food without really seeing it, and found an empty table in the corner. She ate quickly because food was fuel, and nothing more. She kept her eyes moving, tracking every person who came near, calculating distances and threat levels out of pure instinct. That was when she noticed them watching her. 3 students, 2 boys and a girl. They sat at a table across the room, but their attention kept drifting to her. Not with curiosity, not with friendliness, with the kind of predatory assessment that Kira recognized immediately. Bullies. They existed everywhere, in schools, in military units, in refugee camps. Some people needed to feel powerful by making others feel weak. The leader was a tall boy with dark hair and a jawline that suggested he thought highly of himself. His name, she would learn later, was Marcus Chen. His father was a senator. His mother was a corporate executive. He had grown up with money and power and the absolute certainty that he was better than everyone around him. The war had never touched him. The suffering had never reached his pristine existence. He looked at Kira and saw prey. She finished her food and left before they could approach. Not because she was afraid. Fear was an emotion she had burned out of herself long ago. But because she was trying to be normal. Normal people avoided conflict. Normal people did not escalate situations. Normal people certainly did not neutralize threats with violence at the first sign of trouble. The second day was harder. Marcus and his friends had decided she was interesting. They whispered when she passed in the hallway. They laughed when she sat alone. They made comments just loud enough for her to hear. New girl, weirdo, probably crazy. Look at how she walks. Look at how she watches everything. What is wrong with her? Kira ignored them. She had survived orbital bombardments and hand-to-hand combat with aliens twice her size. Words from soft children meant nothing. They were wind. They were noise. They were not worth her attention. But Marcus did not like being ignored. People like him never did. He was used to reactions. Used to fear or anger or submission. Kira gave him nothing. And that made him want more. The confrontation came on the third day. Kira was walking back to her dormitory after classes when they surrounded her. Marcus in front, his 2 friends on either side, a classic intimidation formation that might have worked on someone who had not spent years fighting for survival. The sun was setting behind the academy buildings, casting long shadows across the path. "Hey, new girl," Marcus said. His voice was smooth and confident. The voice of someone who had never faced real consequences. "We have not had a chance to introduce ourselves." Kira stopped walking but did not respond. She was calculating. 3 opponents. Marcus was tall but carried his weight wrong. His center of gravity was high, easy to unbalance. The boy on the left was stockier but showed no signs of combat training. The girl on the right was athletic, probably from sports. But her stance was passive. None of them were threats. None of them had ever faced actual danger. "I am Marcus Chen," he continued, stepping closer. "My father basically runs this academy. So, I like to welcome all the new students personally." He smiled. It was not a nice smile, especially the weird ones. "I am not interested in your welcome," Kira said. Her voice was flat, emotionless. The same voice she had used when reporting casualty counts during the war. Marcus blinked. He had expected something else. Fear, nervousness, maybe anger he could use against her. He got nothing. "You should be more friendly," the stocky boy said. His name was Derek. "Marcus is being nice." "Yeah," the girl added. Her name was Vanessa. "You do not want to make enemies your first week here." Kira looked at each of them in turn. She measured them the way she would measure enemy combatants. Weaknesses. Vulnerabilities. The fastest way to incapacitate them if necessary. These calculations happened automatically, running in the back of her mind like software she could not uninstall. "I do not want anything," Kira said. "I want to walk to my room. You are in my way." Marcus stepped even closer. He was trying to use his height to intimidate her. It might have worked on normal people. on people who had not looked death in the face so many times that it had become boring. "You have a real attitude problem," he said. "Someone should teach you some manners." "Many have tried to teach me many things," Kira replied. "Most of them are dead." The words came out before she could stop them. Not a threat, just a fact. But Marcus heard them as a challenge. His face darkened. His friends shifted uncomfortably. "Did you just threaten me?" Marcus demanded. "No," Kira said. "A threat implies intent. I am simply providing information." She stepped forward, not aggressively, just forward. Marcus stepped back without thinking. An instinctive reaction to something he sensed but could not name. Some part of his brain, the ancient survival instinct that lived in all humans, recognized that he was standing in front of a predator. "Excuse me," Kira said, walking past them. "I have homework." She felt their eyes on her back as she walked away. She knew this was not over. People like Marcus did not accept being dismissed. They would come back. They would push harder. They would try to prove something that did not need proving. But for now, she had avoided conflict. The counselors would be proud. She was being normal. She was not fighting. She was not hurting anyone. Even if every instinct in her body was screaming that she should have ended the threat permanently while she had the chance, the weeks that followed established a pattern. Marcus and his group continued their campaign of harassment. They were careful about it. No physical contact. Nothing that would trigger the Academy's strict anti-bullying protocols. Just whispers and stares and small cruelties designed to wear down their target over time. Kira's things went missing from her room. Her assignments were sabotaged. Rumors spread through the student body like poison. She was crazy. She was dangerous. She had been kicked out of military service for being unstable. None of it was true. But truth mattered less than repetition. People began to avoid her. The isolation that was already her natural state deepened into something the administration might have noticed if they had been paying attention. She endured it because enduring was what she did. During the war, there had been days without food, weeks without proper shelter, months without safety or rest or hope. A few teenagers with too much time and not enough character were nothing compared to that. She went to classes. She completed her work. She trained alone in the academy gym during early morning hours when no one else was awake. The gym became her sanctuary. There was something pure about physical training, the weight of iron in her hands, the rhythm of punches against the heavy bag, the burn of muscles pushed to their limits. It was honest in a way that social interaction never was. Your body could not lie. Your strength was your strength. Your endurance was your endurance. There was no politics or manipulation or hidden meanings. One morning, she was running through combat forms when she realized she was being watched. An older man stood in the doorway of the gym. His hair was gray. His face was weathered. His eyes held the same distant look that Kira saw in her own mirror every day. The look of someone who had seen too much and could never unsee it. "Those are Varkoth war combat forms," he said. Not a question, a statement. Kira stopped moving. "Yes. Modified for human physiology. The original forms were designed for beings with 4 arms." He stepped into the gym. His movement was careful, deliberate. The movement of someone who understood that Kira might perceive him as a threat and was trying to show he was not. "You served," Kira said. 30 years. Retired now. I teach advanced combat training here at the academy." He extended his hand. "Colonel James Wright." "All day." With Colonel James Wright, Kira looked at his hand for a moment before shaking it. Physical contact was difficult. It triggered memories. But refusing would have been rude, and she was trying to be normal. "Kira Vance." "I know who you are," Colonel Wright said. "I read your file when you transferred in. Impressive record for someone your age. The Battle of Meridian 7, the Exodus defense, the blackout operations on Varkoth supply lines." He paused. "You were one of the ghost children." The ghost children. That was what the media had called them. The war orphans who had been recruited into special operations because they were small and silent and had nothing left to lose. Children turned into weapons because humanity was desperate, and the Varkoth did not expect attacks from something so young. It was not something Kira talked about. It was not something she wanted to remember. That was classified, she said. I have clearances that have not been revoked yet. Colonel Wright walked to a nearby bench and sat down. I have been watching you since you arrived. You are struggling. I am fine. You are surviving. There is a difference. He looked at her with understanding that made her uncomfortable. The war trained you to exist in a state of constant threat assessment. Everything is a potential danger. Everyone is a potential enemy. You cannot turn it off because turning it off got people killed for 7 years. Kira said nothing. There was nothing to say. He was right. The Chen boy and his friends, Colonel Wright continued. They have been targeting you. I have seen it. The administration has seen it. But you have not reported anything or fought back. Why? I am trying to be normal. Normal. He said the word like it tasted bad. Normal is overrated. Normal is for people who have never been tested. You have been tested in ways that most humans cannot imagine. That is not a weakness, Kira. That is strength. My counselors say I need to learn to live without conflict. Your counselors mean well, but they have never held a dying friend in their arms while enemy fire rained down around them. They do not understand that some of us are built differently. The war did not break you. It revealed what you are capable of. The question is whether you can find a way to use that in peacetime. He stood up and walked toward the door. Then he stopped and looked back at her. My advanced combat class meets every afternoon. It is invitation only. I am inviting you. He smiled slightly. Not to turn you into a weapon again, but to give you a place where you do not have to pretend to be something you are not. He left before she could respond. Kira stood alone in the gym for a long time, thinking about his words. She had spent so long trying to hide what she was, trying to fit into spaces designed for people who had never known real danger. Maybe that was the wrong approach. Maybe she needed to stop pretending and start accepting. She went to his class that afternoon. It was small. Only about 15 students. All of them older than her by at least a year. They looked at her with curiosity when she walked in. The new girl. The rumored crazy one. But there was no hostility here. These were students who had chosen advanced combat training, which meant they had some understanding of what violence really meant. Colonel Wright put her through her paces in front of everyone. Sparring matches against students twice her size. Tactical problem-solving under pressure. Weapon handling assessments. She moved through each challenge with the efficiency that 7 years of warfare had burned into her bones. No wasted motion. No hesitation. No fear. When it was over, the other students looked at her differently, not with the contempt she had grown used to. With respect, with recognition. They had seen what she was, and they understood. Welcome to the class, Colonel Wright said. Try not to hurt anyone too badly. For the first time since arriving at the academy, Kira almost smiled. The next few weeks were better. She had a place where she belonged. Colonel Wright's students became something like friends, or at least allies. They trained together. They studied tactics together. They did not ask about her past because soldiers knew better than to pry into wounds that had not finished healing. Marcus noticed the change. He noticed that Kira was no longer completely isolated. He noticed that she walked with slightly more confidence, that she seemed slightly less like a victim waiting to be claimed. This made him angry in ways he probably did not understand himself. He had marked her as prey, and prey was not supposed to fight back. The escalation came on a Tuesday. Kira was walking across the main quad when she heard the screaming, high-pitched, terrified, the sound of someone in genuine distress. Her body responded before her mind could catch up. She was running toward the sound, combat instincts overriding everything else. She found them behind the gymnasium. Marcus and Derek had cornered a younger student, a small boy who could not have been more than 13. They were not hitting him. Not yet, but they had him pressed against the wall, and the fear on his face was real. Vanessa stood nearby, filming the whole thing on her tablet. Please, the boy was saying. Please, I did not mean to. You looked at me wrong, Marcus said. Nobody looks at me wrong. Kira stopped at the edge of the scene. Her mind was running threat assessments automatically. Marcus and Derek were focused on the boy. Vanessa was focused on recording. None of them had noticed her yet. She had surprise. She had positioning. She could end this in seconds, but she was trying to be normal. Normal people did not end things in seconds. Normal people called for help. Normal people reported incidents to the proper authorities. "Let him go," Kira said. They turned. Marcus's face shifted from surprise to anger to cruel amusement in rapid succession. "Look who decided to be a hero," he said. "The crazy girl wants to play rescuer." "Let him go," Kira repeated. "Or this will not end well for you." Marcus laughed. Derek laughed with him, though his laughter was more nervous. They had heard the rumors about her. They did not quite believe them, but some part of them was unsure. "Or what?" Marcus stepped toward her, leaving the younger boy forgotten against the wall. "You will attack us? Please do. My father will have you expelled and arrested before the day is over." Assaulting a senator's son is a serious crime, Kira calculated. He was right. If she struck first, she would be the aggressor. The cameras around campus would show her initiating violence. Marcus's family had the connections to spin any narrative they wanted. She would lose. She would be removed from the academy. She would prove everyone right who thought she was unstable and dangerous. But the boy was crying, and something in Kira refused to stand by and watch a child be terrorized when she had the power to stop it. "Vanessa," Kira said, not looking away from Marcus. "You are recording this. Good. Make sure you get everything." "What?" Vanessa's voice was confused. "Get everything, including how this started, including what Marcus was doing to that boy. Because when this goes to the administration, and it will go to the administration, I want there to be a complete record." Marcus's smile faltered slightly. He had not thought about that. He had been so focused on intimidation that he had forgotten about consequences. "You think anyone will believe you over me?" he said, but there was less certainty in his voice. "I think evidence does not care about your father's connections. I think multiple witnesses saw you cornering a younger student. I think the academy has very strict policies about this kind of behavior." Kira took a step forward. "Not aggressive, just steady. And I think you have been very careful to never leave evidence before, but now you have." Right there on that tablet, Marcus looked at Vanessa. Vanessa looked at the tablet like it had become a bomb. "Delete it," Marcus said. "Do not delete it," Kira countered. "Because if you do, I will make sure everyone knows what you were doing. Every student. Every teacher. Every news outlet that might be interested in a senator's son bullying children at a prestigious academy." The standoff held for a long moment. The younger boy had stopped crying and was watching with wide eyes. Marcus's face was red with anger and something else. Something that might have been fear. "This is not over," Marcus finally said. "No," Kira agreed. "It is not, but today it is. Let the boy go." Derek stepped away from the younger student without waiting for Marcus's permission. He was done. He did not want any part of this anymore. Vanessa lowered her tablet, uncertain what to do. Marcus stood alone, his power stripped away by a girl who should have been easy prey. "You are going to regret this," Marcus said to Kira. "I have regretted many things. This will not be one of them." She waited until the younger boy had run away before she turned and walked off herself. She could feel Marcus's hatred burning into her back like plasma fire. This was not over. He would come back. He would try again. He would keep pushing until something broke. But something had changed inside her too. She had faced him without violence. She had won without fighting. Maybe that was a kind of strength she had not known she possessed. Or maybe it was just the calm before a much bigger storm. Marcus did not wait long to take his revenge. But he was smarter about it this time. No more direct confrontations. No more evidence that could be used against him. Instead, he worked through proxies and manipulation, turning the social landscape of the academy into a weapon. Suddenly, students who had been neutral toward Kira became hostile. They whispered that she had threatened Marcus with violence. They claimed she was mentally unstable and a danger to everyone around her. They said she had been dishonorably discharged from military service, that she had killed civilians during the war, that she enjoyed hurting people. The lies spread like fire through dry grass. Even some of Colonel Wright's students began to look at her differently. Not all of them. Not the ones who had trained with her and seen who she really was, but the newer ones, the ones who did not know her well enough to trust their own experience over the rumors. Kira felt the isolation closing in again. It was different this time. Before, she had been invisible. Now she was visible for all the wrong reasons. People moved out of her way in hallways, but not from respect. From fear. From disgust. From the belief that she was something broken and dangerous that should have been locked away instead of allowed into their perfect academy. She considered leaving. It would be easy enough. Pack her bag. Walk out the gates. Disappear into the wider world where her skills could be useful. There were always conflicts somewhere, always places where someone with her training could make a difference. She did not need this school. She did not need these people. She had survived alone before, and she could survive alone again. But something held her back. Maybe it was stubbornness. Maybe it was pride. Maybe it was the younger boy she had helped, who now smiled at her whenever their paths crossed. Grateful beyond words that someone had stood up for him. Maybe it was Colonel Wright, who continued to treat her exactly the same as always, unwilling to let rumors change what he knew to be true. Or maybe she was just tired of running. The breaking point came 3 weeks after the confrontation behind the gymnasium. The Academy held an annual event called the Unity Games, a series of athletic and tactical competitions designed to build teamwork and school spirit. Participation was mandatory for all students. Teams were assigned by lottery to encourage mixing between different social groups. Kira was assigned to a team that included Marcus, Derek, Vanessa, and 8 other students who fell somewhere between neutral and hostile toward her. The universe, it seemed, had a cruel sense of humor. The first challenge was a team obstacle course. Physical. Demanding. The kind of thing that required trust and cooperation to complete successfully. Kira watched her teammates cluster together, deliberately excluding her from their planning session. "We do not need her," Marcus said, loud enough for her to hear. "She will probably sabotage us anyway." Kira said nothing. She simply observed the course while they talked. Her mind automatically mapped the fastest routes, identified potential bottlenecks, calculated the optimal distribution of team members based on their apparent physical capabilities. Years of tactical planning made this almost unconscious. The starting horn sounded. The team charged forward in a disorganized mass, following Marcus's shouted orders that were more about maintaining his authority than actually completing the course efficiently. They hit the first major obstacle, a vertical wall climb, and immediately fell into chaos. People were grabbing for the same handholds, getting in each other's way, arguing about who should go first. Kira watched for exactly 30 seconds before she moved. "Derek, you are heaviest. You anchor the base. Sarah and Jin, you are tallest, so you boost from the middle. Everyone else forms a ladder. I will go last to make sure no one falls." Her voice cut through the arguing with the calm authority of someone who had commanded troops in actual combat. They stared at her. Marcus opened his mouth to object. But before he could speak, Derek was already moving into position. Then Sarah. Then Jin. They were not following Kira because they liked her. They were following her because her instructions made obvious sense and Marcus's did not. The team cleared the wall in half the time it had taken the group before them, then the rope traverse, then the mud crawl, then the climbing net. At each obstacle, Kira quietly provided the tactical solution, and the team quietly implemented it. Even Marcus stopped arguing after the third challenge, too focused on not falling behind to waste energy on his pride. They finished in first place, the announcer called out their time, and the crowd of spectators erupted in surprise. This was not supposed to happen. Teams with known internal conflicts almost always performed poorly. Something unusual had occurred, and everyone knew it. Marcus tried to take credit during the post-race interview. "I kept my team focused and motivated," he said with his politician's smile. "Leadership is about bringing people together." Kira stood in the back of the group and said nothing. She did not need credit. She did not want attention. She had done what needed to be done because that was what she always did. The results spoke for themselves, but something had shifted among her teammates. They had seen her in action. They had watched her transform chaos into order without raising her voice or losing her composure. A few of them nodded at her as they dispersed. Small acknowledgments, barely noticeable, but present. The second challenge was different. A tactical simulation in the Academy's combat training facility. Teams would compete in capture-the-flag-style scenarios using non-lethal weapons. This was Colonel Wright's domain, and he watched from the observation deck with interest as the teams prepared. Marcus saw this as his opportunity to reassert control. "I will lead the offense," he announced. "Derek, you are with me. Vanessa takes rear guard. The rest of you defend our flag." "That is a bad plan," Kira said. Everyone turned to look at her. It was the first time she had directly challenged Marcus in front of the whole team. "Excuse me?" Marcus's voice was dangerous. "Your offensive force is too small. 2 people cannot break through a defended position. You are leaving too many defenders, which wastes resources. And putting your least experienced fighters on defense, while your best go on offense, guarantees we lose our flag, while you fail to capture theirs. And I suppose you have a better idea?" "Yes." Kira stepped forward and drew a diagram in the dirt with her boot. "Split into 3 groups. First group creates a distraction on the left flank. Second group pushes through the center when the enemy responds to the distraction. Third group stays mobile to intercept any enemy offensive. Rotate positions every 3 minutes to keep them off balance." The other team members looked at the diagram, then at Marcus, then at Kira. The silence stretched. "She is right," someone said. A quiet girl named Rachel who rarely spoke. "That formation makes more sense." I agree," added another teammate. Marcus's face went red. His authority was slipping away, and everyone could see it. For years, he had maintained control through fear and social pressure, but fear did not work on someone who had faced actual death. And social pressure meant nothing in a tactical situation where winning required competence. "Fine," Marcus spat. "Do your stupid plan. And when we lose, everyone will know whose fault it is." They did not lose. They won. Decisively. Kira led the central assault team personally, moving through the training facility with the fluid efficiency of someone who had cleared actual enemy positions. Her teammates followed her lead not because they were told to, but because they could see she knew exactly what she was doing. They captured the enemy flag in 4 minutes. The opposing team's captain complained that it was unfair. "She has military training," he protested to the judges. "Real combat experience. That should not be allowed." Colonel Wright looked down from the observation deck. "The rules do not prohibit skill," he said. "Only prohibited weapons and techniques. Miss Vance used neither. Her team won fairly. After that challenge, everything changed. The wall that Marcus had built around Kira through lies and manipulation began to crumble. Students who had avoided her started approaching. They wanted to know how she had done it. They wanted to know if she could teach them. They wanted to understand how someone so young could move and think like that. Kira found herself surrounded by people for the first time since arriving at the academy. It was overwhelming. It was uncomfortable. But it was also something she had never expected to feel again. Acceptance, not despite what the war had made her, but because of it. The final challenge of the Unity Games was a solo competition. Individual obstacle course. Timed and ranked. Everyone competed against everyone else. No teams. No cooperation, just pure personal capability. Kira watched from the waiting area as student after student ran the course. Some were good. Some were impressive. Marcus was among the best, his athletic ability undeniable even if his character was lacking. He crossed the finish line with a time that seemed unbeatable, then turned to smirk at Kira. "Your turn," he said. "Let us see if you are as good as everyone suddenly thinks you are." Kira walked to the starting line. The course stretched before her. A gauntlet of physical challenges designed to test every aspect of human capability. Climbing. Running. Jumping. Crawling. Balance. Strength. Endurance. It was impressive by academy standards. But Kira had trained on courses like this while enemy fire ripped through the air around her. She had run similar gauntlets with injuries that would have hospitalized most people. She had pushed her body beyond limits that civilian coaches claimed were impossible because the alternative was death. The starting horn sounded. She moved. There was no hesitation. No wasted motion. No energy spent on anything that did not directly contribute to forward progress. She flowed through obstacles that made other students struggle. She scaled walls like gravity was a suggestion. She crossed balance beams at full sprint. She dove through tunnels and burst out the other side without slowing down. The crowd fell silent as they watched. This was not a student running an obstacle course. This was a demonstration of what human beings were capable of when circumstances forced them to evolve beyond normal limitations. This was what 7 years of survival had created. Kira crossed the finish line. The timer displayed her time. 20 seconds faster than Marcus. A new academy record by a margin so large it seemed like a mistake. The silence stretched for a long moment. Then the cheering started. She did not know how to respond to cheering. In the war, success meant survival, not celebration. You did not cheer when you completed a mission. You just prepared for the next one because there was always a next one. But the students around her were making noise and slapping her back and telling her how amazing that was, and she did not know what to do with any of it. Colonel Wright appeared at her side. He said nothing. He just stood there. A steady presence in the chaos. And that was somehow exactly what she needed. The Unity Games ended with Kira's team in first place, overall. The award ceremony was formal and uncomfortable, with speeches about excellence and dedication and the spirit of competition. Marcus sat in the audience with a face like stone, watching his carefully constructed reputation crumble around him. After the ceremony, the younger boy she had helped found her in the crowd. He was beaming. "You were incredible," he said. "Everyone is talking about it. Nobody is believing the rumors anymore. They all saw what you can do." Kira looked at him. So young, so undamaged by the universe. He reminded her of her little brother, the one who had died 2 years into the war when a refugee convoy was ambushed. The memory hurt, but it was a different kind of hurt now. Less sharp, more like an old wound that had finally started to heal. "The rumors do not matter," she said. "People will believe what they want to believe. But now they want to believe good things about you." He smiled even wider. "That is what matters." Maybe he was right. Maybe that was what mattered. Kira had spent so long expecting the worst from people that she had forgotten they were capable of changing. That seeing truth could matter more than believing lies. That strength could inspire instead of frighten. Marcus found her later that evening. He was alone, his friends having abandoned him when his social power collapsed. He looked smaller somehow. Less certain. Less dangerous. "This is not over," he said. But the words lacked conviction. "Yes," Kira replied. "It is." She walked past him without looking back. There would be other challenges. Other people who wanted to prove themselves by putting others down. Other battles that needed fighting in ways that had nothing to do with weapons or violence. But for the first time in years, Kira felt ready for them. The war had made her strong, and that strength did not have to be a curse. It could be something else. Something better. A foundation to build on instead of a prison to escape from. She found Colonel Wright waiting near the dormitories. He had a cup of coffee in his hand and a slight smile on his weathered face. "Not bad," he said. "Thank you. The Academy Board is talking about starting a new leadership program. They want someone to help design the curriculum, someone who understands both combat experience and the transition to civilian life." He paused. "I recommended you." Kira stared at him. "I am a student. You are also a 7-year combat veteran with demonstrated leadership capabilities. Age is irrelevant when experience speaks for itself." He handed her a folder. "The preliminary documents. Look them over. Let me know if you are interested." He walked away before she could respond. Kira stood in the evening light, holding the folder, thinking about everything that had led to this moment. The invasion. The war. The losses. The pain. The endless struggle to survive in a universe that seemed determined to break her. The war had made her strong. The bullies had put her to the test. And she had proven something important. Not to them. Not to the academy. To herself. She was more than what her trauma had tried to make her. She was more than a weapon. She was more than a survivor. She was someone who could help others find the same strength she had found in herself. The sunset painted the sky in shades of orange and red, colors that no longer reminded her of fire and destruction. Just beauty. Just possibility. just a future that finally felt worth fighting for. She opened the folder and began to read.